So the big tax question is this: how do wealthy people keep their money working for them when selling their business, real estate, or other highly appreciated assets without paying hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in tax? What if we, as business and real estate owners who have poured blood, sweat, and tears to growing our wealth, and who didn't hire expensive tax attorneys and CPAs to map out an exit strategy, knew their secrets? Instead of recreating the wheel, why can't we just model the way they deferred 30 to 50% in tax, paid off debt, funded their next business dream, and most importantly, leave a financial legacy to give to the causes we believe in most? What if their secrets weren't complicated at all, and you just need a guide who is a few steps ahead of you? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Brett Swarts, and welcome to Capital Gains Tax Solutions.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Build to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. We believe the key to scaling and compounding your wealth and life starts every single day with the mindset and practice of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire biblical principles. Our ultimate goal is to help you scale and compound your wealth and life so you can give more all of it away to help MVPs. My name is Brett Swarts. In each and every episode, we're joined by the world's top entrepreneurs, millionaires, or billionaires, and they share their secrets, insights, and wisdom with us so we can all level up and compound more impact, more freedom. I'm excited about our next guest. He's out of the great state of Colorado. He is an international best-selling author of a brand new book called Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth. And he's on a mission to help redefine wealth beyond traditional financial metrics. And the concept in this episode we're going to be talking about is true wealth, is we're going to really focus on, especially for those who have succeeded and mastered the millions in wealth, and they're moving towards the billions, and so much more. Please welcome to the show with me, Mr. Nathan Barkocy. Nathan, how are we doing?
Brett, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be with you today.
Excellent. And for our listeners, get to know you for the first time, I'd love to hear really about your story, and how you've gotten here, and then kind of your current focus.
Yeah, absolutely. So it all started back in 2016, which is when I was a nationally ranked competitive cyclist, top 10 in the nation, state champion in New Mexico, a record-setting athlete. I still hold a lot of the records that I did set in New Mexico as a 16-year-old. And I was on my way as a 16-year-old to go race in Europe, right? I had my eyes set on the Olympics, on going to the Tour de France. That was my passion. I was on the bike, multiple hours every single day, right? And no matter the weather, no matter the feeling, my health, I was always on the bike, and that was my passion. And then January 23rd of 2016, I was training with my coach and my teammate, and I got hit by a car at 60 miles an hour. So this car shot me forward about 100 feet, and immediately on impact, I was unconscious, sprawled out 100 feet from the car. My coach ran over to my side, shaking me just to see if I was alive, with no response. And I actually died on the scene. The officer that came to the side of the scene reported it as a fatality. And so by God's grace, I was in a coma for 2 weeks. And by God's grace, I opened my eyes again 2 weeks later, paralyzed, right? So I was a nationally ranked cyclist who could not move. And so, really what shifts in your mind when all that happens, right, is what truly holds value. What really holds value. It's the power of our next breath, right? The power of today, because tomorrow is never promised, right? So we need to take advantage of today, take advantage of the current moment, because tomorrow is never promised. So that's really been my mindset moving forward. It's how I've been able to build my businesses. And Brett, I'm really excited to be on this podcast with you because I'm in the midst of scaling, right? I just wrote this book with Sharon Lecter, who's the one who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, and we're really redefining wealth for a new generation. I'm in the midst of scaling my multifamily real estate portfolio. I have started several businesses, so I'm excited to dive into this more with you. Moving from millionaire to billionaire on this podcast, right?
Absolutely. Hey, but first of all, praise God that you're alive, and praise God He's healed you, and praise God that you weren't. The coma, you came out of the coma, right? And so, couple things that come to mind, and actually 2025 was my word of the year from the Lord. He gave me was urgency, or just time. And what helped me to stay in that mindset, and this is what I want to follow up with this question for you since the accident, was a practice of listening to Billy Graham on a 5-minute kind of a clip of a sermon he did, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago. And he's talking about, it's about time, right? And he says in there, like, that time is short, right? What is your life, right? It's even a vapor that appears for a little while, then vanishes away. And that's helped me to keep a mindset of urgency. I have 5 kids, between 7 and 15. It's been, we've been married 16 years, my wife and I, building the business, going 100 miles an hour, all these things, right? But what's helped you stay since the accident with a mindset and practice of urgency and that time is short?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I think this really goes to a lot of Napoleon Hill, right? It's very, very founded in our faith. I too am I'm a very Christian dad, right? I have a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old, two young boys. And my passion is to raise a family that will, right, grow the church and impact the world. And that is my true wealth, right? True wealth to me is eating a delicious steak dinner with my family around our dinner table every night, and being together, having that time, right? And so being able to create that freedom of time through multiple streams of income is how I've been able to establish true wealth for my family. And the key that has kept me moving forward is that faith, right? Because it's really, true wealth was really turning adversity into purpose, right? This is something that I'm really passionate about as well, is helping a generation that has lost purpose because they're just scrolling on their phone screens, right? Maybe they've lost that sense of purpose, or maybe the parents who have found themselves lost in their 9-to-5 jobs, right? They lose their purpose, right? And the purpose is to create true wealth for their legacy, for their multi-generational lines that they're establishing. And so this is so important, because a life that feels good without anyone else's approval, right? That's what we're really chasing, right? And so, I mean, that is definitely what is the foundation of what kept me moving forward, was my faith, right? And we need to ensure that our faith is what brings us, forward on the next step. I've worked with a lot of millionaires, of course, and I have a handful, about 5 billionaires that I've worked with. And it's so interesting to me that you achieve such a high level of success, but they too have lost their understanding of true wealth because they lose faith, right? They lose faith in what they hold to be true, what actually is their passion to move forward. And a lot of people lose their passion for true wealth just getting tied up in the money, right? Because true wealth isn't just counted in the dollars, right? That is a part of it, but it's counted in the person that you become and the life that allows you to live.
Everyone speaking with Mr. Nathan, and I'm going to spell his last name because it's a little bit more challenging. Barkocy, and you can learn more about him by going to his website, Nathan, barkocy.com, and you can learn more about the Pillars of Wealth. Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth is the book. Check that out as well. All the places that books are being sold these days. Love all the things you're talking about. The adversity to purpose, right? Really resonates. And, what's really interesting, right, is as a Christian, you study the Bible, but you really start to get, I think, certain things, or start to really internalize them even more as you live through these adversities. Like, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, for it's an opportunity to persevere in your faith and be complete, not lacking anything. So you've gone through one of the biggest trials you can imagine, dying and coming back to life, right? Being in a coma for multiple weeks, and your world of being one of the best cyclists ever to be maybe riding the bike in the world, to the opposite, or I'm not sure where the rest of the story is or how that's gone since then. And but how have you considered it pure joy? And then 2, how has it helped you to really persevere so that you're less lacking than you were before?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question, because I like how you say pure joy, right? Because it's not happiness, right? It's not happiness. I wasn't laying in bed, unable to move, happy. And I wasn't recovering, trying to figure out how to be a teenager again, happy, right? And I wasn't happy, trying to finish off college and trying to move forward with all of this stuff. I wasn't happy, but it was joyful, right? And the persistence to go through that. And it hasn't been happiness that has surrounded me going through all of the trials to get my businesses off the ground, to invest into this large real estate portfolio that I own. And so there's a lot of perseverance, right? But it's all joy, right? It's all founded in Christ, which is, he is joy, right? And that's mirrored in the crucifixion story as well, right? That Jesus was able to persevere through that pain because of the joy of eternal peace, right? And of course, he's not going to be happy getting scourged at the pillar, right? But he's joyful moving forward. And so this is important. Living your faith in action, that's something that you just mentioned, right? Living your faith in action is something that really has helped me move forward, because a lot of people, they pray, and prayer is important, right? And there's a lot of parts of our faith that are important to stick to, but a lot of people just live a timid life, right? And it says, blessed are the meek, right? That doesn't mean the people that just stay behind doors and stick to themselves, right? Blessed are those who have a sword and know how to use it, but keep it sheathed, right? So being able to have that potential, right, to go out and start these businesses, go out, build your legacy, go out and create a high impact in the world. That's what we're called to, right? It's not called to sit in your room, sit on your couch and eat chips while you're watching a football game. That's fun to do, right? It's really fun. I'm a big Broncos fan, so go Bo. We made it to the next step in the playoffs, and so really exciting. I love doing that stuff, but that's not our end purpose, right? We leverage our relationships, we leverage our joys, and our happiness to be able to build the kingdom, right? To be able to build our passions, which will grow the kingdom of God on earth as it is in heaven. So it's all living your faith in action, most definitely.
Beautiful. Love all of that. I also just listened to a sermon by Pastor Joby Martin here in Church 1122 is where we go to in Jacksonville. And he talked about freedom from, right? And I think this is the piece that gets missed. Most of us, financial freedom is obviously a big part of freedom. But and then you kind of mentioned a little bit before, like the approval of man, right? So it's freedom from the approval of man, or even the fear of man, right? Rather, the correct fear is, the only fear is the fear of God. By the way, there's a great book on this called The Awe of God. For anyone listening out there, who've ever felt like, like what's missing, in my spiritual life, it might be the fear of God, the awe of God, right? Which is this book that breaks it down biblically, what that means and how to live that out. But the opposite of it is the approval of man, always trying to seek that. Like, you don't have freedom if you're always beholden to the freedom of man. What's interesting is they also study this just in psychology and surveys for people on their deathbeds. They ask them the question, hey, what is the top 5 regrets you've ever had in your life? Or, and this is across the whole world, all cultures, backgrounds. And the number one regret is not living authentically to who they felt like they were called to be. I think deeper than that, it's not living the God-given destiny and the good work they were called to do, and rather being caught up in what the world was telling them who they were. In other words, it's the identity, right? And they end up just going along with, their parents, culture, society, whatever, their peer group, and it's not living their unique calling, right? I thought that was so key. So freedom from the approval of man was a big piece of this. So how has your challenge that you've been through, and now you're on the other side, how has it helped you to not be beholden to the approval of man and the approval of the world?
Yeah, this is a great question too. And it's interesting because the approval of man, right? This is what so many people get tied up in is they think wealth is in status or in the followers or in the approval or whatever that may be, right? I mean, I started my real estate investment company while I was still in college. So a lot of people were, still in their dorm rooms playing video games or wasting their time. I would still go out and I'd go to some parties with the friends. I'd hang out with my girlfriend. I'd spend my time important relationship focus, right? But as opposed to wasting time on things that didn't matter, I was studying real estate. I was studying how to grow and scale business because that's what I was passionate about, and they weren't teaching me that in the classroom. So I needed to study on my own. So as opposed to wasting time on video games or wasting time, with things that didn't matter, I was able to focus there. And so it's an interesting question that you bring up, and it really does bring that consistency back, right? And it's so important to be able to consistently pursue the truth. And that's made evident in all of the business, consistency that you build and the relationships that you establish. The number one most important thing that you can do is establish a network around you with people that are where you want to be, right? Because if you're able to follow in their footsteps, if you're able to gain wisdom through their mentorship, that's how you're able to scale your businesses and create that life that you truly desire to create, which is true wealth, right? It's that freedom of time. And those are the most important dollars that I've ever spent, right? Are dollars that have gotten me into the same room as my mentor, Sharon Lechter, and Ken McElroy, and Russell Gray, and working with all these people that that is my network now, right? Those are the most important dollars I've ever spent, because it's gotten me to this level to be able to think the same as them and gain their wisdom. There's such a big difference between wisdom and knowledge, right? And so being able to gain that wisdom and leverage that so that I can move forward on the establishment of my businesses and the creation of true wealth for myself and my family.
Amazing. By the way, we're going to dive right into the topic at hand. We promise. We kind of got an intro there, but it's Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth, and it's a book. It's an international best-selling book that I want you guys all to check out and gals check out. And it's all about the pillars of wealth. And so let's break it down, Nathan. What is the definition of old wealth? Ready, go.
Yep. Old wealth is more of the long-term tax advantage strategies, right? So real estate, I have real estate, whole life insurance, long-term tax advantage. Sometimes it's a little bit more hidden, or offshore banking, right? Dynasty trusts, long-term tax advantage strategies. Nothing's wrong about it. It's all about accumulation and long-term planning.
Excellent. And then walk us through by the way, this is, if you go to his website as well, it's risk-averse mindset, maintaining status quo, inherently comfort and security, generational wealth preservation. You say wealth without drive. What do you mean by that?
Because it's all long-term tax advantage strategies, like I said, right? So it's all accumulation. It does take time, and it's important to do this, right? It is very important to do this, but it takes a long time, right? And it's as opposed to the new wealth, which we're about to dive into, right? New wealth is very driven, and so it's the long-term accumulation of that wealth.
Okay, good. All right, so now let's dive into new wealth. What's new wealth? How do you define it? And let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So new wealth is it's the flashier wealth, right? We call it new wealth, but when I was doing my podcast with Ken, he said there's nothing new about it. We all want the fast cars, the flashy watches, all this stuff. So nothing wrong about it necessarily, right? It's the driving your Bentley with your Rolex, and there's nothing wrong about it. There's a lot of people that are driven for wealth because of the flashy, right? The social media fame, almost the get rich quick schemes, right? It's kind of the more modern day wealth, right? That's been generated. Large social media followings, lots of ad spend, which create, a great ROAS. And so being able to establish a large following and a big influence on social media and kind of this, get rich quick schemes. A lot of people were able to, ride the crypto wave, and they just gained wealth without even knowing how they did so, right? It was just luck of the draw. And so that's kind of the new wealth, right? It's the more modern day flashy type of wealth.
Okay, yeah, that's really good. And you put it here, well, I think on your website, drive without fulfillment, right? So more material focus, more external validation seeking, back to like the fear of man, right? Or the approval of man, right? Looking at that. So that makes sense. Okay, so let's move into the true wealth. How do you define true wealth? And what's some of the secrets there to building it out?
Yeah, absolutely. So true wealth is the perfect combination of both the old and the new, right? It's not negating either, because either are very important. Like I said, I own a lot of old wealth assets, right? I also love to pursue the new wealth sometimes. I have a couple luxury watches, and it's kind of fun to do that when you can, right? So nothing necessarily or inherently wrong about those two. It's the perfect combination of both, which creates multiple streams of income, which allows you to have your freedom of time, which is true wealth, right? Because because tomorrow is never promised. Freedom of time is exactly what the definition of true wealth would be, right? So it's that, as I've said before, it's not just counted in the dollars, it's counted in that person you become and the life it allows you to live, which creates a larger impact, right? And it creates a larger legacy for you because you're playing in the bigger game of true wealth. You know, I mean, it's not just the smaller game of the old or the new. It's, I mean, against anyone else, you know, you really pursue, you know, the accomplishment of your self-limitations so that you can create your most influential, your highest, you know, the highest impact that you're able to create for true wealth. And that's all gained through freedom of time, right? Which is built on multiple streams of income. So it's very entrepreneurial as well.
Okay, cool, got it. So let's get practical now, right? So let's imagine you've established old and new wealth, right? You've built it millions in revenue, now you're moving towards billions, right? You're really focused on impact. What do you find the best families or businesses and entrepreneurs do to really fully bring the two old and new together? Like, what practical steps are they taking to make this happen?
A great question, and it's the same thing that it took them to get there. It's all based on systems, right? And so in order to create that new wealth or the old wealth, right, you have to put systems in place that help you scale, right? And this is scaling from the millions to the billions, right? You have to be able to scale effectively. And if you aren't, you know, if you don't create specific systems in place that allow you to scale, then you'll just get, you know, all over the place. It'll be deer in the headlights, right? And you won't be able to handle the growth of your wealth, the growth of your impact. And so the people that are able to create those systems, which builds the old and the new wealth, will allow them to establish the true wealth. And then leveraging that time with those systems is going to get you into the connections that allow you to build more of an impact, right? And that's what I'm very grateful to be working with Sharon Lechter on, is she's been able to guide me along the importance of proper articulation so that I'm able to bring my message to the world in more of an effective manner, right? Because as an entrepreneur, you're really scatterbrained. You know, you've got so many ideas. There's an infinite amount of possibilities to move forward with. But without those systems, without the proper articulation, then there's no way to properly scale, right?
Got it. So let's talk about, like, what was some of the biggest, best systems that you built that had the biggest, you know, huge domino that fell over for your businesses or for your life? Or is there like one or two that really stick out? You're like, oh gosh, I finally built that system, and that was the biggest, you know, or one of the biggest ones. What sticks out?
Yeah, and this is a great question too, because this is what a lot of entrepreneurs need to hear. Everyone starts as a solopreneur, right? And everybody starts as a solopreneur, and that's fun to do. But you're just trading a job working for someone else for a job working for yourself, right? And so that was the biggest step that I recently took, was getting to a position from a solopreneur to an entrepreneur to a capitalist, right? So I'm creating jobs for other people, right? I'm creating opportunities for other people. Well, they're able to, you know, utilize their expertise, right? For my general contracting business in Fort Worth, I'm hiring contractors who are able to leverage their expertise. Obviously, I'm providing them a lot more deals than they'd be able to gain themselves. I'm creating an abundance of wealth for them. They're able to close these deals, which helps my business grow and scale. And that is how I'm able to create an abundance of wealth for multiple people, which is truly capitalist.
Okay, got it. So mindset of solopreneur, entrepreneur to capitalist. That's definitely understanding that concept there, and then you know, finding the best way. Was there a system within the business and or a hire and or a coach that helps you to finally break through a certain area? Like, I'll give you an example. So like right now, we're in the process of hiring multiple coaches to help us level up all of our systems, processes, SOPs, KPIs, all of our numbers and reporting and all of that, all of the movement of funds, even looking at all of our, you know, like a webinar funnel and a text automation funnel, and like so. There's the first level that you put together, and then there's a level maybe you have, and then I'm wondering, like, was there anything that really stick out that you're like, oh, I'm so glad I did this, and that helped me to, you know, 3x or 4, it was a catalyst system, I guess is what I'm looking for here.
Yeah, I think the key for me was vetting the right team, right? So I needed to build the right team, and I structured all of that, right? I had the systems in place, the people that needed to participate in that systemized process, but I needed to bring on the right people, and that's something that. I mean, I guess it's hard to advise on, right? It takes time, right? It's built on character, right? It's built on passion, and being able to build the right teams to help you scale. You can hire anybody that you want to hire, right? There's a lot of people looking for jobs, but you have to be able to vet that person, vet those people to help you scale. If I'm answering this question, there was one specific hire that I did for my restoration business where, we were bringing in clients. We were bringing in, different people that we were servicing, but there wasn't, we weren't closing the deals on time. We weren't getting things moved properly. So it's all about bringing on the right people. Once I did bring in this contractor who had so much experience, and he was just a genuine, true Texas guy, right? He loved his cowboy hats and his boots, and he loved working in Texas. Yeah, and he's been doing this for many years, right? His experience, his expertise. Once I brought him on board, and he's been able to, oversee all of the projects, provide some consulting as well as the expertise in the field, that's how we've been able to, skyrocket 5x, and be able to really scale quickly. And so it's really bringing on the right people, because those aren't found in every location,
Excellent. Love it. Nathan Barkocy, everybody. You can learn more about him by going to nathanbarkocy.com, nathanbarkocy.com, and his book, Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth, with Sharon Lechter as well. And check it out, international best-selling book. And so how are you helping people today? So besides the book, they go, hey, okay, great, I love the book, love what you're doing. How do you help people? It looks like you maybe have some, you have maybe a mastermind, maybe a mentorship program. Walk us through a little bit of what it looks like to work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, I'm passionate about mentoring proactive and aspiring entrepreneurs, just like myself, just like someone who's, whether it be a young person in college who just wants to do more, or whether it be a 50, 60-year-old who's just ready to get out of their job, they want to invest into their first real estate project. I'm passionate about helping those proactive and aspiring entrepreneurs shed mediocrity, regain ownership of their time, and really manifest their dreams in business. And so people are able to reach out to me through my website and set that up one-on-one. Those are obviously my highest clients that I'm working with. My main passion right now is I'm going out and doing a lot of speaking engagements, because I'm able to engage with more people. And what I've noticed, Brett, is that a lot of people really need this motivation, right? They need the motivation, and they need to see that someone, 26-year-old, someone's been able to do it themselves. So, right, I've lost my life, so why couldn't you do it? So it's really an incredible opportunity through these speaking engagements to be able to provide a lot of motivation. And really, that's all people need. They just need that motivation. And so they can find, a lot of people can find me on my podcast for, that guidance, right? I'm interviewing a lot of very high profile people that have established incredible, multiple streams of income. They've been able to establish true wealth themselves. And everybody, regardless of their location, their vocation, whatever they're doing, everyone defines true wealth the same, right? It means the same to all people. Maybe you manifest it in different ways. Maybe some people don't want to build a family like I am. Maybe some people only want those cars, but it's all gained through the freedom of time and the freedom of decision that is gained through true wealth.
Excellent. And so I'm curious, is there any go-tos for helping people get really clear and intentional on their time management and their time, efficiency? Is there anything about that you've learned over the years from, and it's maybe in the book, or any hey, this is the top two things that I help people work through to really maximize their time and their planning?
Yeah, absolutely. So this would be exactly where people go. If you go to nathanbarkocy.com, nathanbarkocy, BARKOCY.com, you'll be able to download my free blueprint to true wealth, right? So this is going to show you the 5 steps necessary to create a life of abundance and consistency, because that's all it takes, right? Is consistency. You need to have the mindset shift from scarcity to abundance, and then you have to have consistency. So that blueprint is going to be able to answer the question for all of your audience, of course, and then you can reach out to me personally from there, and I'll be able to walk you through it one by one.
Excellent. Sounds great. You ready for the lightning round?
Let's do it.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you go back to your 20-year-old self, what's the one gold nugget make sure to tell yourself to do?
Be consistent, right? So it's sticking to that consistency. So make sure that you're leveraging your time not for pleasure, right? Not for the temporary satisfaction, but for greatness, right? For long-term greatness.
Excellent. Question number 2, what are you most curious about right now?
What I'm most curious about right now is how to more effectively scale. Like I told you, I'm in the process of scaling, but I'm really leveraging my network, like yourself, and like a lot of people that I'm on podcasts with and my mentors, on really figuring out how to scale more effectively so that my businesses can create more of an impact.
Excellent. Next question. Maybe top AI tool that you're using day to day, and or one that you've seen recently that's really helpful.
Yep, Perplexity AI is the one that I use specifically for real estate. Because I'm very established in the real estate sector, I utilize Perplexity AI on the daily.
Excellent. So for your real estate, what are you investing in? You mentioned multifamily syndications. Is that what you guys are doing? Value add properties, bigger, better properties, Sunbelt states, or is it in Colorado? Where are you guys buying things these days? Because I know Colorado can be kind of tough with a lot of the rent control stuff I think they have going on, and a lot of challenges there.
Yeah, so I'm not pursuing Colorado. I'll tell you that. I do invest in Texas. My whole real estate portfolio is in Texas.
Okay.
The main objective behind that is small development. I'm pursuing a small lot for a food truck park development, adding a lot of character to the neighborhood, and there's great walkability in this area. So I'm pursuing that project right now. Likewise, I'm doing the same sort of thing, right? Some fix and flips on some smaller condominium townhomes. And we're doing some buy and hold strategy with that as well.
Awesome. And so are you bringing capital in, a GP/LP syndication type of model? Is that what you guys do?
Yes.
Cool. So here's a cool one. I think it might help you. How do you guys unlock capital, right? Because most people raise capital for their specific project, but like the person says, Nathan, I'd love to be in your syndication, but either I can't 1031, and I know you have some bonus depreciation cost seg, but it might not be enough to offset, and I'm exiting my business, or my Bitcoin doesn't qualify for a 1031. So like, what strategies do you guys use? And I have one to offer you guys too, to see if it could help you guys out. But I'm curious, what are your best ways to unlock capital?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. This is something that I have learned recently. I've been working with Marcin Drodes in the M1 Real Capital team, and he's been helping me build what he calls the unfair advantage, right? So being able to build up your UFA, the unfair advantage, so that investors are always ready to write the check. It doesn't matter the type of deal it is. They just are ready to write the check because they trust in you and they believe in your unfair advantage. That's what I've been able to build right now. And specifically in the medical district where I'm investing in Fort Worth, we've built up a large network of high net worth physicians that need to place capital for tax purposes, right? And they know the value of the land in this specific medical district in Fort Worth, and so that's all based upon my unfair advantage.
Okay, so I wanted to also give you another idea. Maybe you, me, and Marcin can all jump on to strategize on this. So we unlock capital through capital gains tax exit plans, not using a 1031 exchange. That works great for physicians that are exiting their big, medical practice. Like we just did a veterinarian and a dentist practice exit, right? And one of them was in Oregon. It's like, over $10 million exit, and they had huge taxes. So instead of paying the taxes, they can defer the taxes. And then once they're in this trust, is the way we structure it, they can invest into passive, Reg D syndications, right? It also works for Bitcoin. It also works to save 1031s. It also works for commercial real estate, but there's no timing restrictions. There's no like-kind replacement requirement. There's no 45-180 running around with your hair on fire. And so we think this is the ultimate unfair advantage, right? Because otherwise people pay just massive tax, or they just don't even sell. They're just like, I'm not going to sell the business. I'm not going to sell the Bitcoin. I'm not going to sell the real estate because I don't want to pay the tax, but I'd love to be in your deal, Nathan. So, here's 50 or 100K rather than it could be multiple millions, right? That can come in. And so we just did a $70 million business exit for a client out of Connecticut, a tech sale, huge exit, right? Massive tax implications. And so we call this unlocking capital. People want to learn more, by the way, you go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. It's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. We also wrote a book on it called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. So make sure you check all that out. Okay, so we'll keep going. I know that was kind of a side lightning round. We have a couple more and then we'll wrap it up. So how do you best stay ultra disciplined, right, and ultra healthy, right? You came from probably the healthiest, strongest cyclist, right, at your age. Obviously, had to recover from all of the injuries, right? And then, so how do you now say ultra focused and ultra healthy? And by the way, how are you riding bikes these days? What's going on?
Yeah. So we're back to the systems, right? So because I'm working daily, constantly, I do this thing. It's called F3, and so the F3 is it's fitness, fellowship, and faith, right?
Okay.
And so every morning at 5:30 in the morning, the workout starts. It's always outside. It's it's peer led in a rotating fashion, and there's F3 groups throughout the nation. I got started in Fort Worth when I was living out there, and now it's across the nation, across the globe actually. So every morning, workout at 5:30 in the morning. We're done by 6:15. That means you can get your boot camp style, right, your militant workout done in the morning. And that builds up strength and obviously a lot of cardio, especially in high elevation. And so I'm able to get that done, and that's all in systems, right? So that means that my day starts at 4:52 when my alarm goes off, and I'm starting to, that just happens naturally for me. I don't even need an alarm, but regardless, 4:52, alarm goes off. I work out 5:30 to 6:15, come home, make some breakfast for the kiddos, get some work done, and then we start the day, right? We start the routines. And so that's been absolutely crucial. You need to, if there's someone starting from day one, right? From the first day of their desire just to build a legacy, right? To build up a portfolio, sit down and spend 20 minutes writing your goals down, your specific goals. Once those are in place, once you know your direction and your vision moving forward, then you can put the systems in place that allow you to establish the portfolio, establish the brands, and then once those are in place, then you start building the systems to scale.
Awesome. Love it. Okay. We're way out of time. This has been so incredible. Nathan, very last question. After everything you've accomplished and all of the people you've helped, and how do you also keep maybe you kind of answered it, but how do you keep a mindset of stewardship over ownership, right? Ownership being, it's temporary. We're here for just a brief period of time. Stewardship being like everything we have, it's been given by God. It's a gift, right? Especially someone who, like yourself, who's gone through such a tragedy with the injury, but now it's a gift, right? Now it's a chance to gift and be a gift to other people, to inspire and change people's lives. So how do you keep that? How do you also keep that mindset? Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And sorry, this isn't a lightning round, right? I have really long answers, but because of the fact that I died, right? We all have a few large fears, fears, right? And you can read this in Outwitting the Devil, because the top fears that the devil places in our mind is death and then finance, right? So becoming financially broke, right? Or having some falling through there. Because I already encountered death, I don't have any fears, which is actually a downfall for me, right? It's put me in some positions that's really made me scale too fast, so I've had to really kind of draw back and recover. But the number one thing is to not have fear, right? Be not afraid. The Bible tells us 365 times, be not afraid, do not fear, right? And so that would be my largest recommendation to anyone who's listening, is just to eliminate fear, because fear is not of God, right? And so we need to be able to take the next steps forward without any fear.
Amazing. Nathan, this has been incredible. I want to encourage you and thank you. I want to thank you for being on the podcast, dropping tons of wisdom and insight with us. And I want to encourage you to keep using the God-given gifts to be a blessing to more and more people, make a huge impact. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, one last time, what's the best place for them to find you?
Best place is Nathan Barkocy, BARKOCY.com. And you can reach out to me directly on there. You can find all of my content on there. And then if you want to invest, there's also an opportunity to invest with Nathan on that website.
Amazing. Thank you, Nathan. I also want to thank all of our listeners and our viewers for watching or listening to another episode of the Build to Billions podcast, also streaming on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast and YouTube channels. And we're on this journey with you to scale from millions to billions, so we give more, all of it away to help MVPs, the most vulnerable people. My name is Brett Swarts. I want to encourage you to take action today with what Nathan spoke about. Well, even one area of your life that you can take some action on, get some momentum going to unlock true wealth, as well as if you have a huge exit coming up, massive capital gains taxes, $1 million+ deal. I want to encourage you to build a capital gains tax exit plan with our team. We'll walk you through what options you have and to see if it's a great fit. And it's great because you can have an extra 20 to 50% more working for you, compounding, that can free up your time to give you an opportunity to study and practice even more true wealth. Just go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com and share this with someone it could be of insight or inspiration to today. And we'll talk to you again real soon. Bye now.
You have just listened to another information-packed episode of Capital Gains Tax Solutions with Brett Swarts. We hope you enjoyed today's show and found it helpful. Visit capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to access the show notes and to access more resources. Don't forget to leave a review and join us again next time.